Alors, bonjour à tous. C'est avec grand plaisir qu'on vous accueille présentement ici pour la session de conférence qui s'intitule « La prochaine génération de mines au Québec ». Vous savez, les découvertes, tous les gens qui participent à ce congrès ici, c'est leur but, c'est leur raison de travail, c'est leur motivation. Ça fait que c'est vraiment essentiel de reconnaître et de donner la chance à ceux qui sont sur des projets avancés ou des découvertes en devenir, de venir leur montrer leur succès et puis nous indiquer la voie pour une prochaine découverte. Sans plus tarder, on va commencer en écoutant Dr. Matt Manson, qui est président de Stornoway, Diamond Canada. M. Manson compte plus de 14 années d'expérience dans le secteur des activités de prospection, d'exploitation et de production de diamants. Il est diplômé de l'Université d'Édimbourg avec un baccalauréat en géophysique en 1987, de l'Université de Toronto avec un doctorat en géologie en 1996. De 1999 à 2005, il a travaillé chez Aber Diamond Corporation comme vice-président marketing et par la suite comme vice-président de services techniques de contrôle, période pendant laquelle il a participé au financement du projet diamantifère Diavik. Et ce, tout en assumant la direction des activités techniques et de marketing d'Aber. En mars 2007, suite à l'acquisition d'Ashton Mining du Canada et de Contact Diamond Corp, il a été nommé président de Stornoway, puis en janvier 2009, président de la direction. M. Manson nous présente aujourd'hui sa conférence « La création et la croissance d'une ressource minérale à Renard, la première mine de diamants au Québec ». À vous, Dr. Manson.
Merci. Merci à tous. Bienvenue. Malheureusement, je tiens à faire cette présentation aujourd'hui en anglais. Je pense que ce sera meilleur pour nous tous. Mais plus important, je voudrais souligner que tous les matériaux que je vais présenter aujourd'hui a été créé par notre équipe technique à Vancouver, Robin Hopkins, John Armstrong, Isabella Pine, Colleen Lurandy et aussi Cathy Fitzgerald, originalement avec Stornoway, maintenant avec la Société Peregrine. Bon. So a reminder of where Renard is, James Bay area of Quebec. 9 kimberlite pipes were discovered beginning in 2001 and a series of kimberlite dikes. Renard is interesting because it is a relatively small cluster, but everything is diamondiferous, and we see 5 economic ore bodies amongst the 9 kimberlites that have been discovered. That's typically the other way around in the diamond business, large clusters but very small incidences of economic ore bodies. So this is distinguished. That's the first thing that's unusual about Renard, and there's a few other things as well. One of the other things is that the dikes, the kimberlite dikes that surround us, are not the same geologic event. They are 200 million years younger. So we have 2 diamondiferous eruptive events in the same location in Quebec within a few hundred meters of each other with 200 million years of age separating them. That dashed line that connects the project to the provincial highway network is the Route 167 extension, and this has been in the news very recently. This is the schedule driver for our project. This is the regional highway project that the Ministry of Transportation has been building. On October the 26th, we were told by the Quebec government that they were reviewing their budget, and that meant a potential major delay in providing road access to the project. By November 15th, we had press released a new deal where we were taking over the construction of the final 2 segments of the road, segments C and D, shown at the top, 97 kilometers. We will build that as a single-lane mining road instead of a 2-lane highway. Quebec will finance that. So we are essentially stepping in here to make sure this important regional road gets finished. And then that financing facility, $77 million, it's essentially a mortgage. It's paid off on unsecured subordinated basis out of cash flow. So win-win situation for everyone. The road gets built, other projects get the access, we get access, and we all move forward. That's what the road looks like currently. It is an active construction project. These photographs were taken a couple of months ago. There you see the slashed route and the beginnings of a bed being put on top of the road in the top right. And that's what we'll all be driving on. Our schedule has us driving on a rough access on an all-season basis by the fourth quarter of next year. So we're targeting construction startup at Renard in the fourth quarter based upon this road access schedule. Now this talk is about the resource and this slide and how it was created, and this slide gives you a snapshot of the project. 5 kimberlite pipes. The green is our indicated resource, drilled, sampled, and bulk sampled. Our blue is our inferred resource, and the red is the upside material, the material that we can reasonably imply is there, with a couple of drill holes supporting that. So 24 million carats in the indicated resource, 17 in the inferred, 2449 in the upside. So down to 700 meters, which is the vertical scale on that slide, not shown, but 700 meters, we've got about 65 to 80 million carats on the page. So that makes this one of the biggest undeveloped diamond resources in the world. The 24 million carats of indicated resource gives us an 18 million carat reserve after consideration for ore recovery and dilution. And that gives us the feasibility study, which gives us 11 years of mining, a 380 million after-tax NPV, 15% IRR, and 2.7 billion of cash flow. This feature about Renard that everybody has to remember is how much resource upside there is here. And that's why this talk today about how the resource was created is important, because the one aspect of Renard that's truly world-class is this. It's not world-class on the basis of the grade or the tons or the diamond population. They're all better projects around the world in each one of those categories. This is world-class because of the resource upside going downwards. Renard 2 in the center there is 1 hectare at the top for the kimberlite, and it's getting bigger as you go down. It's 2 hectares at the 600-meter level, which is the base of the indicated resource, and it appears to be getting bigger. We have what's called transitional kimberlites here. We're in the mid-section of the plumbing system for these kimberlites. We're not at the very top of the eruptive column where we've had a cone and a crater. We're in the mid-section where some more curious shapes can occur, and that's what we've got here. That 100-meter slab of inferred resource, which is shown there in the middle, of Renard 2 is another 3 years of mining once we get down there. So it's the mine life we get here as you go down. And when you put the inferred resources into the mine plan, which we're not allowed to disclose, 43-101 no longer allows companies like us to talk about the economics of inferred resources after you've put out a reserve. But when you put those inferred resources in, you essentially double everything. You double the project value, you double the mine life. And that's what we're permitting. We're building and permitting a mine for about a 20-year mine life, but we're financing it off the first 11 years of reserve. So it's the upside at Renard that we're all looking for here. Now, to discuss the geology, I'll focus on not Renard 2, I'll focus on Renard 3, and a lot of this material was taken from the presentation by Colleen Laurandi at the 10th International Kimberlite Conference in India last year. Renard 3 is a good example of the geology of these ore bodies. So what you're seeing here in green is the actual ore, the kimberlite breccia material, and then in pink, we're seeing the eruptive envelope. This is the zone of country rock around each kimberlite that's been disrupted by the volatiles coming up with the eruption, by carbon dioxide and water vapor, brecciating or fracturing the surrounding country rock. So that is the eruptive event, and within that envelope, we have the ore. Now, Renard 3 in cross-section looks like this, and I'm going to show you 3 basic rock types here. Tough acidic, and I'm not the expert here, I'm the CEO of the company, so please excuse me if I get this all wrong, but tough acidic kimberlite, a classic diatreme type rock. This is material that's been brecciated, large fragments of country rock in it, and also interstitial kimberlite material carrying diamonds. Below that, typically lower in the eruptive event, we've got hypabyssal kimberlite. This is the original kimberlite magma, which has come up from the upper mantle, which is carrying the diamonds. Large olivines illustrated here in that slide. And then there is a transitional unit, HKT, TKT, which basically represents the partial devolatilization of the hypabyssal kimberlite, where gases are coming out and it's beginning to brecciate, but it hasn't quite evolved properly into a full mature breccia material, TK material. Those are the 3 distinguished rock types that we see at Renard, and they're very well defined in the content, in the basis of how much country rock xenolith material they have in them, what's the dilution. The HK material at the bottom is very low in dilution, the TK is higher in dilution, how much olivine they have in them, and the magma class, the class of unevolved hypabyssal kimberlite which are existing within the ore. So we can define these things very well. The X's mark the amount of waste or dilution, these xenolith materials that are in each phase, and the O's represent the abundance of olivines within these rock units. So we can get our eyes into the geology here. And the most important thing in developing a diamond resource is developing a good understanding of the geology. And Casey Hetman, sitting in the audience here, when he was at Mineral Services, he was the first person who really helped us get our eye into these transitional kimberlites. Now in Renard 3, we've got a lot of these units. It's quite complicated. In the pink, you see fractured country rock and country rock breccia, this disturbed material around us. And in the other colors, you see the individual units of TK and transitional kimberlite and HK. And we've also got later hypabyssal kimberlite dikes, which are coming in the eruptive event, and these are usually carrying very high grade. And these aren't transitional units between each other. There are sharp contacts between these units. So when we went underground in 2006, we were able to see specific contacts between individual units. So the geology is very defined here, and we can map these things out, we can drill them, and we can be predictive with our drilling as well. Now, one of the features of a transitional kimberlite, which is key to understanding the resource, and this is the paradigm established by De Beers, and Barbara Scott Smith articulates this very well, is that these materials haven't been sorted. None of this rock got out into the surface. This isn't a pyroclastic rock that blew out and then fell back in, like you have at the kimberlites in the Northwest Territories. These are rocks that never saw the surface, and so they've never been sorted. So the paradigm is that grade, after correcting for dilution, grade is continuous within each unit. And grade is also a distinguishing characteristic of each unit. So here you see some of the grades that came out of our bulk sample program in these individual units. And these are all very high grades, by the way. Renard's on the world ranking, Renard's a very high grade deposit. Anything over 100 carats per 100 tons is a high grade kimberlite. So lots of high grade material at Renard. And lower grade material as well than 33 CPHT off on the right there. And Renard 3, we think, is 2 eruptive vents also, 2 different areas where kimberlite came up. So now we go over to Renard 2. You see the complicated TK and HK and transitional units over in Renard 3. Renard 2, which is about 80% of our resource, next door to Renard 3, is the more simple, only 2 units. A TK unit, which we call blue, and an HKT unit, transitional unit, which we call brown. Knowing which you have is important because brown is about twice the grade of blue. Now this is what we thought Renard was in 2008. At the bottom of the credit crisis, we were a 5.5-cent stock. We thought we had about a 6-year mine life based on 11 million carats. We thought our 2 principal ore bodies looked like that. And the only money that was available to us in the winter of 2008 was Quebec Super Flow-Through. Here's an advert for Quebec Super Flow-Through. We raised $3 million. We had to go drilling, so we thought, well, let's drill the bottom of these ore bodies. We only had a couple of drill holes into Renard 2 at depth. We had drawn the root of that ore body the way carrot-shaped ore bodies in kimberlites are supposed to be. So we had implied it was getting skinnier at depth. When we did our drilling, we got that. That was what $3 million of Quebec Super Flow-Through did to the Quebec diamond industry. It quadrupled the size of Renard 2. We had missed all of this material at depth with our previous drilling. And of course, the brown material, this transitional material that's higher grade, all of a sudden was the predominant unit at depth. So this was a complete home run for this project. It really made the mine. We now have a 20-year mine life based upon a 24 million carat indicated resource and a 17 million carat inferred resource because of this drill program. And if you put on all of the eruptive events, this fractured country rock and the country rock breccia, you get your classic carrot-shaped rock, right? You get your classic. Right, so you know there is a carat in here somewhere, and within that envelope you've got a more complicated ore body essentially. Now, if you don't believe that that is real, that the fact that Renard 2 gets bigger at depth, this will hopefully convince you. There is the 2008 model with 1 drill hole going across the ore body at depth and there was 1 drill hole in the ore body going down vertically, and that's what we had drawn. That was the drill pattern we put on in 2009 going to 2010, and then that's what we ended up with. So well controlled at depth, drill hole pierce points on all the major areas, and then put on the fractured material around, and there's our nice carat. So very real, and that's what's going to make the mine now. So now we got a good definition of the geology. We understand how it's working, good definition of the lithological units. Now we come to establishing grade. Here's the inventory of data that allowed us to establish the grade. There's $140 million of sunk costs in Renard, and a lot of it went into getting this inventory of diamond material. 4,500 tons taken from underground bulk samples of diamond material. 4,500 tons taken from underground bulk samples. 3,500 tons taken from surface trenching. 900 tons of RC work. 154 tons of drill core samples. There's 88,000 meters of drilling here. 9,000 carats, commercial-sized diamonds, shown in the bottom left for valuation purposes. 16 tons of material from drill core submitted for micro-diamond work to establish grade continuity. I'll show you that in a second. So a lot of work here has gone into this. And three quick statements about how grade's been established, and now we're getting into the science of this. But the paradigm here with transitional kimberlites is we've got grade continuity within the ore bodies after taking out the effect of dilution. Meaning, if you measure blue grade at the top of Renard 2, it should be the same as blue grade at the bottom of Renard 2 after taking out the effect of dilution. So the job here is to establish what the grades of each unit are through good sampling, and then test for the continuity of that grade up and down the ore body. So this methodology is testable, and I'll show you the results of the test. Here's the grade model. This is the kind of curve that diamond resource geologists use all the time. It's called a spot Puy curve, stones per tons per unit interval. And it essentially represents size of diamond along the horizontal axis and the likelihood of that diamond occurring on the vertical axis. And it shows basically that big diamonds are rarer than smaller diamonds. And the relationship is a log normal relationship. And in this kind of plot, that is expressed in the context of a quadratic curve. So when we actually, the diamond data collected here is the totality of diamond data from the blue unit in Renard 2, which is a big chunk of our resource. And this curve is made up of very small diamonds or microdiamonds that you recover from the caustic dissolution of drill core. So you're dissolving the drill core and getting the very smallest diamonds out that way. You're getting commercial-sized diamonds, 0.01 carats and up, from taking bulk samples and RC samples. The two curves should overlap, and if they overlap, you've got the same micro and macro diamond population. You fit your best curve to get your quadratic curve after Chapman and Boxer to get your grade curve. And then you integrate below that curve to get the grade. And that little hook there is the effect of a commercial process plant not recovering the smallest diamonds. So after you've corrected for your commercial plant not getting these small diamonds, you end up with what's called your adjusted grade. And for the blue unit in Renard 2, that's 83 carats per 100 tons on an average basis. So that's essentially, so there's several hundreds of tons, thousands of tons, thousands of stones representing that curve. So very well established grade model. And we have those grade models for every geologic unit within Renard. And then we look at dilution. We can look at all our drilling, and we can Krieg the amount of dilution we're seeing in the ore body in a classic block model fashion. And we can derive dilution estimates by just visual estimates, modal estimates, or more quantitative line scan estimates. So a lot of work has gone in logging all this core for dilution. And the dilution is quite predictable. There are high dilution areas and there are low dilution areas. And this is a function of how that diatreme was in place during the eruptive event. So we can get our dilution model, and we can test that dilution model with variograms and the normal statistics of this kind of stuff, which is above my pay grade. And then we can test it. So here's more of these spot Puy graphs. And what these represent, this is the most important set of graphs that are in our 43101 report. And what they represent is we went down at 50-meter slices through the ore body, down to 700 meters. And we drilled the thing, obviously. And every 50 meters, we collected all the microdiamond and macrodiamond data in those slices from all the drill core, several tons of drill core. And then we developed microdiamond curves in those slices, and we differentiated them for blue and brown, the different lithological units. And then we looked to see if those curves that we got from that data were plotting upon the grade model that's established from the totality of all the data. And if it did plot on that grade model, then the paradigm of transitional kimberlites was correct. The grade was continuing down. And the top right shows all of the 50-meter slice curves plotting on top of the grade model. Slide B shows we've sliced the model vertically into quadrants, collected the data that way, and tested the continuity of grade on that basis. They plot on top of the grade model. And then C is the combination of all of that microdiamond data from all of the slices plotting on top of the grade model. So basically, we were able to test this resource and demonstrate that we've got the continuity of the grade all the way down. Even though our bulk sampling and our RC work was within the first couple of 100 meters, we can actually test the continuity of the grade all the way in the 600. So that's why we're confident that this resource is there. That's why we're confident that the upside material is there, because we've tested it. So that's the hardest, most technical part of the presentation done. Now we've got some diamonds. They're very nice at Renard. We've got a coarse distribution, so we do expect to get big stones. We expect to get 3 to 6 stones every, between 50 and 100 carats, and 1 to 2 stones above 100 carats every 2 weeks, every 100,000 carats. Every 2 weeks, we'll be producing 1 to 2 stones above 100 carats in size. That's what the size distribution model is predicting. What we can't predict is what quality they will be, but the quality we are getting of these diamonds is very nice. We're getting a white to brown color profile, which is quite normal. And then the bottom end, the lower quality material is at the top end there, at the top of the slide. We're not seeing much Bort or industrial grade diamonds here, about 1% by weight. This is a curious attribute of all the diamond deposits in the Superior Province, Victor, Renard, the pipes down in the Temiskaming area. They've all got very low composition amounts of Bort in the material, which means our average price of $182 per carat is higher than the world average. So Renard will have a higher than average diamond population with big stones. So that's a nice place to be in the market. One last revisit to the overall resource then. 24 indicated, 17 million carats inferred, 24 to 49 upside. What that means in terms of mine life, the feasibility is based upon the reserve at 11 years of mining. This is the scale of that graph is millions of tons. We'll be processing at 2 million tons a year. So we're up to about 50 million tons on the basis of the inferred resources. So that's our 20-year mine life basically there. The vision here is to take all of the upside material as well. We think all of this is economic. That gets us up to 100, 120 million tons. That's our 30, 40-year vision for this project. It's not a resource yet, but that's the vision. That's why the road is getting built, essentially. It's the vision of multiple generations of people working in Quebec's first diamond mine. And all of these ore bodies are open, potentially with the exception of Renard 3. But certainly Renard 2, the biggest one, is open at 700 meters. Our shaft, which we're busy trying to defer to reduce capex, but our shaft is rated to go to 1,400 meters. So we are preparing for a mine that deep, even though we've drilled only to about 800 meters. The only way we can reasonably keep growing the resource before we build the mine is to bulk sample Renard 6.5. The bulk sampling exercise that gets the diamond valuation data is principally what defines an inferred resource over an indicated resource. The drilling and the sampling density is similar in inferred and indicated. What's different is the presence or absence of a valuation data set. So we're looking to convert the inferred at Renard 6.5. It's one of the lower grade ore bodies, 29 carats per 100 tons, but it's at surface. It could be a large open pit. We've taken 5,000 tons. There's a press release coming out before market this morning just to give an update on this work. We processed that 5,000 tons. It's now gone to our lab in North Vancouver. We expect the results in the first quarter. And we're hoping for some big stones. That's a 4-carat stone that was found in the original drilling of Renard 6.5. So the resource is still growing here, but at this stage we've got to just stop and start building the mine. This is an expensive process. And that's what the mine will look like. Combination of open pit mining and underground. Obviously with vertical oriented ore bodies, we're going underground pretty soon, after only a year and a half. Very modest environmental impact here. Our tailings aren't leaching metals. We're using a dry stack. There's no need for a liner. There's no sulfides in the waste rock, so there's no chemicals used in the plant. So very easy project for people to get behind. We have an IBA with the Crees. They're important partners for us. We have participation agreements with Chibougamau and Chapé. Everything's set up here to move forward. We expect our certificate of authorization to arrive very soon. And acknowledgements, Stornoway, Geostrat or QP, David Farrell and Darryl Farrell, Casey Hetman here in our audience, Barbara Scott-Smith from Scott-Smith Petrology, and valuation experts WWW and Galaxy Diamond. Thanks very much.
Merci beaucoup, Dr. Manson, pour cette excellente présentation qui nous fait prendre encore plus conscience que le projet est sur la bonne voie d'être le premier producteur. On aurait le temps pour une ou deux questions.
Pouvez-vous nous rappeler l'âge des Kimberlites, s'il vous plaît? The age of Kimberlites?
640. 640. Les Kimberlites, les digues sont différents, ils sont plus jeunes. 200 millions ans plus jeunes.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Notre prochain conférencier sera